This is CoreTV News of the Hour with Nifemi Oguntoye. Nigeria has recorded a new death from Ebola in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The latest casualty, according to the nation's health authorities, is a doctor who treated one of the primary contacts of the late Patrick Soem. This brings to 16 the number of Ebola cases in Nigeria, but 70 people are under surveillance in the Rivers State capital alone.
It's only a few days after Nigeria's efforts at containing Ebola had received rave reviews. But now, that enthusiasm has been dampened with the spread of the virus to Port Harcourt, the hub of Nigeria's oil industry. Health Minister says the first confirmed case outside Lagos was a doctor who treated one of the primary contacts.
This primary contact of Mr. Sawyers had evaded our surveillance team in the last week of July 2014 and traveled out of Lagos to Port Harcourt, where, as we now understand, he consulted with a doctor and was apparently treated for some symptoms. A few days later, 5 days later, following a manhunt for him, he returned to Lagos, by which time he was found to be without symptoms. Following the report of his death by the doctor's widow, the next day, that Saturday when the report came to us, the case has since been thoroughly investigated, and laboratory analysis showed that the doctor died from Ebola virus disease.
The minister disclosed that 70 people are under surveillance in Port Harcourt, but urged residents not to panic.
The Incident Management Committee has already deployed a very strong team. They are already on ground in Port Harcourt to work with the health authorities of Rivers State. I've also had a series of discussions with the authorities in Rivers State. But then, just like the situation has effectively been managed in Lagos and Enugu, the situation in Port Harcourt will also similarly be effectively managed.
This is the second time that a primary contact traveled outside of Lagos, and it's not surprising that the authorities are concerned.
In Enugu, we have 6. In Port Harcourt, we have 70. In Lagos, we have 141. But 200, since we started this journey of Ebola virus disease in Nigeria, 200 people had completed, 200 contacts had completed their 21 days, and we are no longer tracking them. So 200 had completed, we are no longer tracking them, but as of today, 141 in Lagos, 70 in Port Harcourt, 6 in Enugu.
He added that the 6 secondary contacts under surveillance in Enugu are due for review in a few days. And in spite of what seems like a setback, the Nigerian authorities say the experience gathered in Lagos will be used to contain the disease in Port Harcourt.
In an effort to complement measures taken by the federal and state governments to contain the spread of Ebola virus, the Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria organized a sensitization workshop for health workers. The workshop, held at the Lautech Training Hospital, Osogbo, was described as timely, especially for those handling blood samples from affected patients who are more vulnerable to contracting the disease.
For an Ebola patient to be properly diagnosed, a science laboratory test must be carried out on the blood. This leaves the medical laboratory worker at a high risk of contracting the deadly disease than any other individual. To ensure that its members have a proper understanding on how to handle blood samples from suspected Ebola cases, Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria, Lautech chapter, held a sensitization program in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. The chairman of the union, Adeyeye Adetunji, says the program is necessary because of the exposure of laboratory scientists to the Ebola danger.
Medical laboratory scientists evidently play a role in the diagnosis and monitoring treatment of various diseases affecting human populations. In the prevailing circumstance, health workers have been identified as being at greater risk of contracting the Ebola virus, as they are the ones daily taking care of the patients already affected by the disease.
When we are talking about Ebola, it's just one of the threats that we have in hospital workplace or hospital workstation, especially laboratory this time around.
In his lecture, the head of Medical Laboratory Services at Lautech Oshobo, Musa Muibi, stressed the need for laboratory scientists to apply the standard safety precautions in laboratories to make them safe from Ebola and any other deadly virus.
Don't say because a sample is labeled Ebola. I mean, a patient is a suspected Ebola case, that's why they have sent the sample. They may send another sample of whom have not manifested any symptoms of Ebola for common pregnancy test. If that person is Ebola positive, his urine is infectious. So it is the message for all laboratory practitioners is that at all the time, continue to observe universal safety precautions.
Participants and laboratory students speak on the impact of the sensitization.
I have learned that Ebola can only be transferred from patients who have shown symptoms of the virus. And you get Ebola from body fluids, you don't just get it from body contact. And I've also learned that as scientists that are going to be taking body fluids and carrying out tests in the lab, there are universal safety procedures that should be followed in order to prevent loss of life through tests done in the laboratories.
With the newly recorded cases of Ebola, it is pertinent for all hands to be on deck in fighting the scourge. Rashid, CoreTV News, Oshobo.
The United Nations has commended Nigeria for successfully containing the Ebola virus disease. Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General David Navarro delivered the message at a meeting with President Goodluck Jonathan. The president, in his response, praised the Lagos state government for teaming up with the Federal Ministry of Health to stem the threat posed by Ebola. Jonathan assured the UN Special Envoy that in spite of the seeming success of its containment measures, the government will remain vigilant to guard against further cases of Ebola in the country. The meeting also provided an opportunity for the president to condemn discrimination against Nigerians by some countries over recent cases of the disease. President Jonathan argued that there was no justification to stigmatize Nigerians since the virus had been effectively contained and never attained epidemic levels. Head of the United States top public health body, Tom Frieden, says the Ebola epidemic in Liberia is set to get worse, and many cases of the deadly diseases are not included in the official tally. Liberia has been the hardest hit by the epidemic that is raging through West Africa, with 624 deaths and 1,082 cases since the start of the year. Frieden met President Helen Johnson Sirleaf to discuss ways of combating the epidemic.
Throughout Liberia for the last few days, talking to patients, healthcare workers, government workers, community leaders, and others. The situation with Ebola in Liberia today is dire. There is need for urgent action. The world has never seen an outbreak of Ebola like this. Unfortunately, not only are the numbers large, but we know that there are many more cases than have been diagnosed and reported, and that cases are increasing. I wish I didn't have to say this, but it is going to get worse before it gets better. At the same time, I've been very impressed by the response that I have seen. All of Liberia needs to come together to stop Ebola. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick.
The death toll from the Ebola outbreak raging through West Africa has passed the 1,500 mark, while the number of cases has soared past 3,000, according to the World Health Organization. WHO says a total of 1,552 people had died in Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria from the epidemic that reared its head at the beginning of the year, while 3,062 had become infected. Guinea has 648 cases, including 430 deaths, while Sierra Leone has seen 1,026 cases and 422 deaths. Liberia so far counted 1,378 cases and 694 deaths, while Nigeria has seen 17 cases and 6 deaths, according to the WHO. You're watching CoreTV News on the hour. More stars coming up shortly after this break. Stay with us.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Governorship aspirants under the platform of the ruling People's Democratic Party in Adamawa State have asked the party not to grant a waiver to Nuhu Rubadu and others who seek to contest the party's primary. The petition was submitted at the party's national headquarters in Abuja. Apart from Rubadu, other aspirants the petition has asked to be denied waiver are Mohammed Modibo, Marcus Gundiri, Buba Mara, and Aliyu Kama. The 7 aspirants who signed the petition are Umar Ado, Ahmed Gulak, James Barker, Andrawu Sawa, Abubakar Halilu, Edie Hung, and Awa Tukor. The petition, which was sent to the chairman of waiver panel and the party's national organizing secretary, Abubakar Mustafa, was titled Objection to Granting of Waivers for the purpose of contesting the People's Democratic Party's governorship primaries in Adamawa State for the forthcoming October 11 by-election. The petition has argued that Rubadu, Gunduri, and Modibo joined the PDP for the first time only recently, while Marwa and Kama returned to the PDP less than 2 years ago. Rubadu in his reaction says those huffing and buffing over his entrance into the governorship race portray themselves as empty shells that they are. Raf Onwoye has emerged the new deputy governor of Enugu State. The office had become vacant after Sunday Onyebuchi was impeached by members of the Enugu State House of Assembly. That was on Tuesday. The new deputy governor, a clergy at the Christ Ascension Church, was screened and cleared by the House of Assembly following his nomination by Governor Sullivan Chime. After the House had returned from a short break during Thursday's plenary session, the Speaker, Eugene Odo, read a letter forwarded to the lawmakers by the governor, urging them to expeditiously consider and approve Onwoye's nomination. The break was occasioned by the receipt of the letter. After the letter had been read, the leader of the House, Ude Okoye, seconded by the deputy leader, John Okuta, moved to motions for the immediate acceptance and consideration of the letter and for the nominee screening. Onwoye was then ushered into the chambers of the House for screening, but he ended up just taking a bow after a lawmaker, John Anichuku, pleaded with his colleagues that the revered gentleman standing before them be allowed to take a bow and leave the chambers. Reactions have been trailing the recent security meeting between former President Olusegun Obasanjo and President Goodluck Jonathan over security matters in the country. Head of Coalition Against Corrupt Leaders, Debo Adeniro, says the meeting was a distraction and unnecessary at this time.
It is an unnecessary meeting because they have had different opportunity and fora to hold meetings before now, and as a matter of fact, Obasanjo cannot claim that he became wiser when he left the office as the president of Nigeria. All along, he had the opportunity of spending 8 years as the civilian president of this country, and most of these insurgency issues of security developed during his tenure. Maybe because the general dissatisfaction from the populace, about the way they were governed, the inadequacies, the lopsided distribution of wealth of this country must have engineered some of these things. The hope that was dashed during the Obasanjo days must have led to the militancy, insurgency, and several other forms of explosive anger that different parts of the country are unleashing on innocent people who did not contribute to that, misery. Then for a Jonathan to now see Obasanjo as that cesspool of wisdom that can lead to the curbing of insurgency is a step in the wrong direction.
President Goodluck Jonathan has launched the multi-purpose National Electronic ID card. Speaking at the formal launch in Abuja, the president says the target is to ensure that over 100 million cards are issued. President Goodluck Jonathan received the own e-ID card at the occasion and pointed out that it will make it easier for ordinary Nigerians to benefit from government policies.
This card, every Nigerian must get. If you take the issue of subsidy of transport, what we do subsidizing hydrocarbons does not go to the ordinary people. Government spends huge sums of money, hundreds of billions of naira every year in the budget, as the National Assembly, sometimes always controversial, subsidizing kerosene. Kerosene is just going very high in the market, subsidizing PMS and so on. We are thinking about how do we subsidize transport of the person going to school, person going to the market, person moving from Lagos to Enugu or Lagos to Kano, not paying subsidy that 50% of that will be smuggled out of the country. When the issue of the crisis in the north came up, we come up with the idea, Mr. President, how do we do some bit of something that takes the shape of amnesty? There's amnesty in the South or Niger Delta. How do we do amnesty? I said, look, we must not wait for youth to carry arms against the state before we help them. We are working to the extent that as long as we have the identity, governments will be able to directly, just like the coordinating minister of the economy attempted to explain to us, to find a way of making life more meaningful. We can't do that when you don't know who is who, because the money goes to the wrong hands. And those who use this money to create more problems, even for the very poor people they're exploiting. So I'm quite pleased today. In fact, with NIMS's success story, as a nation, we are moving.
All right, we were ready.
Nigeria is the first country in the world to develop an e-wallet system for the distribution of fertilizers to farmers. Minister of Agriculture Akinwumi Adesina disclosed this at the formal launch of the National e-ID card in Abuja. He also added that out of the 14 million farmers registered in the e-wallet scheme, over 10 million are listed in the national database.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has developed Nigeria's first ever national database of farmers. We have over 14 million farmers that have been registered, all of them with farmer identification cards. But these farmer ID cards are now being upgraded, Mr. President, into this full national biometric identification cards, the e-cards that the barrister talked about. We are already migrating 10.5 million farmers out of the 14 million farmers that we have registered in the e-wallet system into this NIMSI pre-enrollment national database. Mr. President, you spearheaded the development of the electronic wallet system for the agricultural sector of Nigeria. With this e-wallet system, we are reaching farmers with subsidized farm inputs via mobile phones with remarkable success. Over 14 million farmers have redeemed their seeds and fertilizers via mobile phones on these e-wallet systems since 2012. Nigeria is the first, not just in Africa, but we are the first in the world to develop the e-wallet system for delivering subsidized farm inputs to farmers via mobile phones.
Stories outside Nigeria next after this break. Stay with us.
Glad to have you join us on another edition of The Political Arena, the most detailed and incisive political show.
If you are a sitting governor and the opposition is able to stomach structure against you, that means you are wicked to the people.
Give me 20 minutes to move or they will shoot me.
He has no chance for survival. If he likes himself, this is the best time to get out before it perishes.
The PDP as a ruling party has failed.
So anybody who thinks that government will fold his hands and allow miscreants to take over the streets of Osun State and cause havoc is deceiving himself.
the good, bad, ugly, and beautiful sides of the Nigerian political system. Join me every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. on CoreTV News.
Welcome back. The European Union says it's extremely concerned by reports of an incursion by Russian troops into Ukraine. EU says there is an urgent need for a political solution to the crisis in the eastern edge of the European Union. EU leaders plan to discuss the development in Ukraine at a summit that is primarily tasked with filling top EU jobs, including the successor for Ashton.
Very closely following what is going on the ground. You know now that the High Representative has met, obviously extremely concerned by the latest developments, including reports that we are seeing on what is going on in the ground. Our call on Russia to put an immediate stop to any form of border hostilities. This obviously includes the flow of arms, equipment, and military personnel from Russia to Ukraine. And we reiterate our support for the political and an urgent need for political solution of the crisis that would be based on full respect of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The EU leaders are coming to Brussels on Saturday, and the crisis in Ukraine is on the agenda of the summit.
Germany's anti-Euro party, which rejects Chancellor Angela Merkel's handling of the economy, says it hopes to gain a political foothold by winning its first seats in the state parliament. Voters in Saxony kick out the first of 3 elections in ex-communist eastern states as Germany gears up to mark 25 years since the Berlin Wall fell. The Alternative for Germany narrowly missed entering the German parliament at last September's general election, but made its debut at the European Parliament in May. Analysts say the party, which wants the orderly dissolution of the euro, must broaden its appeal from a single issue to appear relevant at a regional level. A recent poll for the party suggested that it can win around 7% of the vote, clearing the threshold to enter the Saxony Parliament in Dresden and providing momentum for votes in neighboring Thuringia and Brandenburg on September 14. That wraps up this hour. Join us again at the top of the hour for more. I am Nifemi Okuntoye.